Yes, so the collaboration with XLR was an excellent one. We conducted a Power BI workshop with advanced Excel over a span of 3 days. The workshop was almost 12 hours long. Mr. Karthik, who was an amazing trainer, helped the students understand the concepts deeply. I am sure that the students will be able to apply these concepts in their careers as well as their daily lives.
The trainer, Mr. Karthik, was an excellent person where he explained in very detailed manner on how to give great insights using very complex data sets.
So it was a machine learning workshop. We learned a lot from the course and it was a great experience attending the workshop.
The trainer was very helpful. He had a hands-on approach with his teaching and it was fabulous.
This was a great experience for me. So I would absolutely love it if XLR and its team would come again to our campus and conduct more events like this.
It was a great course and it started from basics and took me to a great extent.
The experience of the workshop was really nice. The feedback from all the students was positive. They understood the concept. The workshop was also practical based with some questions. The experience with XLR was very smooth. They helped us in conducting the workshop smoothly right from the booking of the vendor and deciding the course till the distribution of certificates. In overall, this workshop was a success during our technical fest Atmos, and I thank XLR for being a part of it.
Good morning, everyone. So, I am Bala, and I am a technical trainer within XLR Institute. So, the last time the same program has been implemented for the same students. So, there we tried covering for introduction of the cloud computing, the importance of the cloud computing, and the advantages, the benefits, and the usage. Okay. So, we try to discuss about the same. So, basically, cloud computing is the delivery of computing, networking, software, storage, database, analytics, and all other applications over the internet. All right. So out of that, AWS is becoming one of the popular cloud platform that is trying to create a huge job platforms and trying to provide almost 200 plus services across different sets data centers across the globe. All right. So this is how the AWS console, which we'll try to look out. And this AWS cloud vendor, they are trying to provide all these services like computing, database, storage, machine learning, database, and networking, and machine learning, gaming development, front end development, every all the services that is required for infrastructure, it is trying to be provided over the web console. All right. So today we will try to see how a virtual server, like we always try to be used of physical servers. So we will try to see and have a understanding and demo on how these virtual servers can be launched within the cloud. All right. So the virtual services are being provided over the AWS console with the help of EC2 service. So under the compute section, here the EC2 service, which is trying to provide the virtual service in the cloud. That means you will be able to launch a virtual Windows server, virtual Linux server, virtual Macintosh, or any operating system that is required with the different specifications and the configurations that is required and set up and can be launched within the console here. Okay. So I'll try to show you how that can be worked over here. So here to get started, I'm trying to launch an instance. Instance is nothing but a server within the cloud term. So an EC2 allows you to create a virtual machines or instances that run on the AWS cloud. All right. So for example, if I want to launch a Linux demo web server, okay. So basically, it takes time for us to have a physical server setup that we need to purchase the equipment and trying to install the software, trying to set up the configuration like an assembled configuration like CPU, memory, and the RAM, storage, graphics, processor, everything. That is how we try to choose it, correct? Now, when it comes to the cloud, it provides a good visibility to select the required operating system to launch a server. You can see there are different operating systems like a Linux and the Windows. You can see there are different versions that you can try to, it will try to provide your images. AMI is nothing but a Amazon machine image, which it is kind of a template that contains the software configuration where you can try to choose the required operating system, where you can try to have it run with an application server and you can try to install applications, and where you can try to have it configured and try to launch accordingly. You can see there are Linux operating systems, Macintosh, Red Hat, Ubuntu, Microsoft Windows. So the different operating systems, these are available over the Amazon Machine Image Console, where you can click on the selected softwares and trying to launch. This AMI is nothing but a image. For example, when you try to have a brand new computer or the laptop for the Windows, so when we want to install any software, what do? We will try to put in a CD drive for a Windows software, or we will try to have the software inserted in the USB and trying to make it as a bootable pen drive and trying to install, correct? So the same concept, that is how this AMI is similar what? So where you can try to select the default AMI and then it will try to install the required software for you here. Okay. So for example, I'm trying to select this Amazon Linux machine. So 64-bit architecture and trying to install over here. Okay. I'm trying to select the required instance type. That means how many cores I need, how much memory I need. So based on that, I'm trying to launch this server over the cloud. That means if you can see, this is having a pricing. For example, we have a different instance types. You can see it is trying to have 1 core CPU, 0.5 GB memory, 1 core CPU, 2 GB memory, and C6i.4x large. That means 16 core CPU and 32 GB memory. So if you select any instance type, based on that, the pricing will be decided. You can see for Windows $1.416 per hour. As I told, the cloud computing, the pricing will be depending on pay as you go service. That means what kind of a resources you are using, the pricing will be depending on. And how much time you are trying to use the servers, based on that, the timing will be depending on. That means you don't need to worry about the physical infrastructure. You're not trying to pay the amount for the physical hardware. You're trying to pay for the service over the cloud. That is what the advantage of the cloud computing. So that means you're trying to pay for the hourly basis and how much time you're trying to use these servers and services over the cloud environment. So the background hardware infrastructure will be completely taken care by AWS. That means the physical hardware and the data center management, everything will be done by taken care by cloud computing. That means AWS cloud vendor. As we have discussed the before batch during the cloud computing introduction, we have seen the data centers, right? So that data center being managed, and we are trying to get a virtual access. We are trying to get a virtual access to these resources over this website. I mean the web console. Okay. With the help of a virtualization concept, they will try to have a software called hypervisor in the background, physical server, and then they are trying to provide a remote access to backend servers. So I'm trying to select the required configuration in the front end console here. So if you see, if I'm trying to use this high configuration, it will be chargeable for me. So as part of a demo testing, then I can try to test for go for a normal low configuration. For example, T2.micro. Here it is eligible for a free tier, or else T3.micro. These are actually used for practice purposes. That means it doesn't trying to charge you. Either T2.micro, T3.micro, you can select that. And I'm selecting the selected instance type because it is not going to charge me. Okay. Because for 1 year, AWS is trying to provide a free tier account so that you can try to practice the lab sessions and trying to understand and do this configuration. So I'm trying to use a least configuration with 1 core CPU and the 1 GB RAM because I'm not trying to do any high level configuration. Okay. So you can see it is free tier eligible. That means I'm able to practice for the practice demo session. I'm trying to use that. Here key pair. Key pair is nothing but kind of a credentials authentication, which will help you to securely connect to your server. So that we need to create a key pair for a secure purpose. If the key pair is there, then only we will be able to launch the server. No one will be able to access it. All right. So I'm going with the default network settings because network settings are important to have a server configured and connect over the internet. So under this, there are concept of a security group. Security group is nothing but a firewall. A security group is a set of firewall rules that controls the inbound and outbound traffic for your server. Here you can try to create a different rules to allow a different traffic to reach your server. As I'm trying to launch a Linux server, I already created a Linux security group that will allow you to connect to the Linux server. Okay. So this security group, I'm adding a SSH port so that it will try to, because this Linux machine servers will work on the SSH protocol. So we need to allow the SSH port in the firewall rules. So I'm selecting that. All right. And when you look at the configuration storage, the storage that has been assigned, you can see the root volume is nothing but a C drive. Okay, it is something like a root volume is where all the operating system files and the configuration that will be stored, okay, under the root volume. So we can try to compare this root volume with a C drive in your Windows operating system. In the Windows operating system, what do we have in the C drive? The binary files, configuration files, operating system files, the booting files, everything will be there, correct? So in the same way, here by default, whenever you launch any server, here the root volume will be created. Even for the Windows, the root volume will be created. So the minimum storage for the root volume is required for a Linux is 8 GB, and you can increase it as well. And the minimum storage required for a Windows server, that is 30 GB. Okay, for Linux it is 8 GB, and the minimum storage that is required for root volume for a Windows server is 30 GB. So this root volume is needed to have a configuration and the operating system files, the installation, everything trying to store over there. Okay, let's try to launch a sample server and see how it can be done. So basically, how many servers I need? I'm trying to select only one server. You can try to launch n number of servers within minutes. That's the advantage over the cloud environment. You can see, I can try to increase with the same configuration. What I try to select here, it can launch almost, n number of servers. Okay, in this way, it will be beneficial. I'm clicking on launch instance. Now you see, my server is getting launched. It takes less than 1 minute to launch for me as a server to be launched over the cloud. You see that? The instance is in pending state. It is about to launch. The status checks. Here, it will try to have a system status checks and the instance status checks to ensure the required hardware and the software and the connection is properly done and installed so that it will be available. So once this state is pending, going from a pending state to available state, then you will be able to connect to the server. Okay, this is how it will be helpful. So I try to utilize this left side of the screen. You can see these are the regions. That means in this Oregon region data center, I try to launch a Linux server. I'm trying to do a practice. You can have a different locations. You can see these are all the different locations, the data centers, and the right side, you can see the available zones. Okay, in each region, we might have 1 zone, 2 zones, or 3 zones. That means data centers. Okay, so I'm trying to launch it. Now you see my server is into running state. That means my server has been configured and then it is into a running state. Let's see what are the details that is trying to generate. Once you try to launch a server, I see it is trying to generate an instance ID, the public IP address, which will be useful to connect over the internet, the private IP address for the internal communications, and the public DNS. The public DNS and the public IP address is used for the server to be connected over the internet. All right. So if you look at the storage, by default, as I told, only the root volume has been attached. That means you can see it is into attaching stage because the status checks are still initializing, right? It is still attaching. So it is already attached with 8 GB of a local volume, root volume storage. If you want to have additional hard disk, like for example, in Windows, what do we do? If you want to have additional storage configured, we'll try to do a partition, right? In the same way, here in the Linux also, there will be a concept of a partition. You can try to attach more hard disk, like a virtual hard disk, like a storage. You can try to attach like a D drive, E drive, M drive, you can try to give a different letters. All right. Let's see what happens. It's an attachment. I think it should be available to connect. So you can see my status checks has been passed. That means once this is passed, then it will be, it just confirms that your server is ready. It is available to connect over the internet. Okay. So your server is in study and it is available for the connection. So let's try to see if this server can be connected or not. Okay. If you can see this connect button, I'm trying to have it connected. It will try to open a console screen, like a Linux will try to work on the command line interface. That means it can be operated over the command line interface. If you see the screen, it just, makes us understanding that your Linux server is successfully connected. And this is a screen what you can see, Amazon Linux 2023, and it is this version, the distribution name. All right. So in Linux, usually we'll try to have a basic commands how it works, because the full Linux commands and administration that will be learned through a regular batch classes which will be happening with an XLR. So I'll just try to show you a basic demo codes how it will be worked. You can see this is a username, this is the IP address of the server, this is the directory, and after this dollar symbol I can try to enter commands. For example, I'm trying to log in as a root user. See, I'm just trying to see root user is an admin user, that will try to allow you. So I'm into this particular folder. So for example, if I want to create some files or the folders in Linux, there are some commands that will try to be worked on. If I want to trying to create some file, for example, I'm trying to enter some content. So if I want to see the information inside that particular file, I have created a file called kt file. You can see a data has been entered inside this kt file. In Windows, what do we do? We'll try to simply use the keyboard and mouse to create a file and trying to have the data because it's a graphical user interface. But in Linux, everything you have to perform with some commands. I'm trying to create a file with the help of a cat command. If I want to create multiple files at a time, I'm using a touch command. So I have created file 1, file 2, file 3. If I want to see the data, I'm using a list command. You can see there are 4 files that has been created. In this way, I can try to create files. So if I want to create a folder, so here we are using a different command again, make directory command, mkdir folder 1. You can see a folder has been created. So if I want to go to this folder, then I need to type change directory folder 1. Now you see the folder has been changed from this folder to this folder. Now I can try to create files in this folder as well. In this way, there are different set of commands that will allow us to administrate the Linux operating system. Okay. Say for example, if I want to install some demo application, like for example, I want to install a demo website application inside this Linux operating system, and let's try to see and make this Linux operating system server as a web server. Okay, I will try to install a sample website. So for that, we will try to use a different command, that is yum command. Yum space install stpd. You can see this installation will be done by backend Linux repository, that is a database. All these components, because in Windows, what do we do? In general, we'll try to install some software by downloading some exe files or any Java or files from the internet resources, correct? But in Linux, everything the downloads and the softwares will be downloaded from the backend Linux repository with the help of commands. It is trying to tell that it is trying to download 6.9 MB of the required software files. Do you want to proceed? Yes or no? It is trying to confirm. So if I try to type yes, it is trying to install all the required modules for deploying of a Apache web server software. Okay, so these softwares has been installed. Now, what I'll try to do, I'll try to configure some settings to have this website deployed, for example. Okay, so yes, I'm trying to on the service. I started the service. If I want to check the status, if it is in running state. Now I see the service is into a running state. Okay, so I will try to use this Linux web server as a sample website. Website means the similar, common websites we try to access over the online, right? So you want to deploy a sample website, for example. So for that, I'll try to do a configuration. Okay. I'm trying to, have a sample HTML file. So let's see if how this output gonna show out. So I try to have a sample website deployed. Now I'll try to check this website access. That means I'm using this server as a website, right? So for example, it has given a default website URL. You can try to customize this DNS based on your required by purchasing the domain. That's a different concept anyway. So here I'll try to copy this. For example, assume this is kind of a www.flipkart.com, ecommerce.com, ebay.com, amazon.com, correct? So these websites that will be available for the users in the front end internet, they will be able to use it to access the websites. So they, the front end developers, they will try to configure the web pages and the product information, and they'll try to configure the fonts, images, and everything they'll try to do. So I'll copy this public DNS. Let's see if that is trying to work out here. Okay. I'm trying to load this. Now you see, I'm able to successfully launch a sample demo website over the internet. Okay. I'm able to successfully launch sample demo website over the internet. I can also try to give you guys, so you can also try to access, for example. So I'm trying to post in the Zoom chat. You can try. So this will try to show me the sample website. You can see within minutes, I can try to launch it. Is it working? Can anyone confirm over the chat if you are able to load the website? So basically, the websites usually configured by the front-end developers. Okay, the backend, the cloud engineers, they will try to launch a servers in the cloud, and the front end, these HTML pages will be deployed. HTML pages will be deployed by the front-end developers. Like, how this Amazon, Flipkart, e-commerce website, how this will work with this help of these things only. All right. I think everyone are able to access the website. You can see how simply I am trying to deploy. But if you try to compare with a real-time physical servers, that is a different concept, correct? So this will be definitely going to be beneficial. All right. Yes. So I can see everyone are able to access successfully. Mm. So for example, if I want to modify some content, okay, if I want to modify some content over here, again, if there is a requirement, then again I will try to edit the HTML file. HTML is nothing but a hypertext markup language. Okay, HTML is nothing but a hypertext markup language. So that will try to configure a required website configuration like a front end web page. All right. So let me try to modify something. So can anyone try to access again? I try to deploy a sample web page, which is trying to show me a image. Can anyone try? Confirm me over the chat. So you can see how simply, so in this way, if you have a knowledge on HTML coding, you can try to deploy a website as well. All right. Correct. So in this in this way, in the real time, these websites can be accessed and trying to configure with the required output. All right. This is about launching a Linux server and trying to have it utilized. All right. So once I'm trying to done with the work, so what I'm trying to do here, I will try to terminate the server because I don't want to have any charges because we are learning as part of demo session, right? Learning purpose. I'll try to terminate. Terminate means it will try to temporarily delete the server from the console as I'm done with the work. You can see the system is shutting down. You can try to do the same configuration in the Windows operating system as well. You can try to deploy a website. Let it get shut down. See, the server got terminated. Okay, so now let's try to launch a Windows server. Okay, let's try to, now we have seen how the Linux servers can work on. Now it is done. So I am trying to, let's try to launch a Windows server now. Okay, so I'm trying to click on launch instance again. Let me try to give a name as Windows test server. Okay, I'm trying to launch a sample Windows 10 test server. You can see we have a different software images. I'm selecting the Microsoft Windows as a software image. All right. And then trying to see, select the free tier eligibility. Key pair I'm selecting existing key pair. You can see, as I told, for the Linux, the minimum storage required is 8 GB. And for Windows, the minimum storage that is required is 30 GB. So the number of servers is 1. Let me try to launch. Okay. Successfully initiated the launch of instance. Let me try now. It is getting, you can see a new server is in pending state. Let's wait for it to launch. So it's still in pending state. Let's give it some time. Now it is getting into a running state. Let's see the status checks. So status checks has been not done yet. Okay. Even the status checks got successful. You can see the system status checks and the instance status checks are in running. Now this should be available to connect. For Windows, basically, you need to either connect through RDP client or you can try to download this RDP. Okay. So I have to generate the password. So we need to at least wait at least 4 minutes after launching a server before trying to retrieve the generated password. Let's give it some more time. So let's try to decrypt the password again. I am trying to connect the server. The password. So I'm trying to retrieve the password quick. Okay. So let's see if I'm able to connect the server now. So I'm trying to launch the server from my personal computer. Okay. It will ask the username and password. You can see it is asking for the prompt if I'm connecting yes or no. Now it is trying to securely launch a server in the background. You see this a black screen, small window is opening that is trying to launch a virtual Windows software. You see a Windows operating system is getting launched here. You see, it is exactly nothing but our personal computers, right? Now, this is a Windows 2022 Server Edition. It looks similarly like, our personal computers with, the required configuration. You can try to launch it over the internet. You see this? So it is having a 30 GB of a storage that has been configured for a root volume. That is nothing but a C drive. You see this? It contains all the Windows operating system files that is in place. So in this way, you can try to have it. So by default, I have a root volume, right? If I want to have an additional storage, that can also be possible by configuring and trying to add additional storage attached to this particular server. For example, if I need additional storage because this Windows server has a storage of 30 GB as a C drive root volume. You can see 30 GB. I want to add additional hard drive storage. Okay, let's see how it can be done. with the help of a additional, elastic block storage, I can try to add a volume to this particular same server. Okay. So this is nothing but a C drive. And if I want to add additional drive, I'll try to create a simple volume. Okay. So I'll try to give it as 8 GB and I'll try to launch it. So it will be under availability zone US plus 2B because the server is into the same zone. I'll try to create a volume. Now this is, I'm trying to give it as a name as E drive, for example. Okay. So this 30 GB is a C drive volume and 8 GB is a additional hard drive like E drive. So it's in creation mode. Let's try to give it some time. It's getting created. Now you can see it is available. Okay. So let's try to see. So E drive, right? So what I need to do, let's try to attach this E drive to the server that has been launched. So I'm trying to click on attach volume and I'm selecting the server that is running, that is Windows test server. I'm trying to give it as a e name attach volume. Okay, so I'm trying to attach this volume. Let's refresh this. So let's see this. Now what I have to do, that server has been, the additional storage has been attached to the server. If I try to refresh, it should appear here, but it doesn't. That means we have to do the partition. So to do the partition, we need to do some settings over the disk management inside the Windows server, correct? I'll try to do this. Now you can see this is a disk management. By default, there's a C drive, but the additional hard disk is still not unallocated. Because it's still unallocated, that means I have to make it attached to this server setting as well, right? I'll make it online. Initialize disk. Done. Okay. Now the server, the storage got active. Now I'll try to make it new simple volume. Next. Next. Assign the following drive letter. So what drive letter you want to give? A, B, C, D, E. C is for C drive anyway, that is done. If I want to give it as a E, then it will try to assign the drive letter as E. Next, finish. Now it is getting formatted from raw to format to NTFS or FAT, whatever the requirement. If I click on this, you can see additional volume has been attached to the server. So along with the C, we have one additional volume that is of 8 GB. You can see that it is empty. In this way, I can trying to have a configuration of the server and trying to attach the more volumes as well. Okay, I hope this is clear. Okay, so even how this is beneficial in the cloud. For example, at some point, if you want to increase the storage from 8 GB to additional storage, then I can also try to do it easily from this elastic block storage concept. Okay, if I want to increase some more, for example, I can click on modify volume. I want to increase from 8 GB to 10 GB, for example. Then I can click on 10 and click on modify. You can see it is trying to show me in use in modifying state. Let's see if that gets modified. It is trying to modify based on percentage. So let's try to refresh this. If that volume has been modified, it is optimizing for 99%. Let's wait for some more seconds. It should be done. So it is basically trying to modify the existing volume, okay? Like the hard disk getting modified to additional storage. Let me try to refresh once more. Still getting modified. I'm trying to refresh still. Most probably it should be ready. Let me go and check in the server. So what I'll try to do, the additional storage that we added, you can see it is coming under 2 GB as unallocated. So I've tried to make it for 10 GB, right? 8 plus 2, 10. So I have to attach this 2 GB to existing 8 GB so that it will try to make it as a 10 GB. Okay. So I'll try to click on this additional extend volume. Now I'm clicking on next. This should be done. Finish. Now we can see my new volume E drive is getting 10 GB now. Okay. So when I'm trying to refresh, so the 8 GB got increased from 10 GB. So basically, this concept is nothing but elastic block storage. Elastic means you can try to increase it. You can try to increase the block storage. Okay. So earlier it was 8 GB. Now it got increased to 10 GB. In this way, I can try to administrate the storage of this particular Windows server. You can see this, and I can try to store the files and trying to create from my local system as well. You can see I can try to copy the files from my local system to the server and trying to store inside this drive. It just copies because this server got public access to the server, right? So you can see I can try to have it. The storage got configured. So I'm trying to copy the data from my system to this particular server. All right. In this way, I can trying to have it administrated. So once I'm done with the work, if I want to delete this drive, so I can try to have it deleted by clicking actions and detach volume. Detach volume means removing the volume from that server. Okay. You can see my volume gets detached. Now I don't see any E drive further. So it can be done very easily that I'm trying to administrate over this AWS cloud. So C drive is there because C drive is needed because this C drive is required for operating and configuration for the operating system files, right? So once I'm trying to do it, I'll try to go and delete this volume. It's getting detached. You can say delete volume. Are you sure you want to delete volume? Yes. So my volume got deleted. So once I'm done with the work, I can try to sign out from the server and terminate the server from AWS console as I'm done with the lab work, right? Terminate the server. Yes, I want to terminate it. My entire data and everything will be deleted from the console now. You see, my server got shut down and it got terminated successfully. You see, I've successfully terminated. In this way, I can trying to administrate the servers inside the AWS console. Okay. So that's it for today's session. So tomorrow we'll try to catch up on some more technical aspects in the demo sessions. All right. I hope everyone got understanding. Any doubts on this today? Any doubts? I hope the session was worthful and you got some idea and understanding how to do it. So in real time, we can try to learn in full-time batch when you try to go over full-time batch classes. Okay. All right.